For those that don't know, my name's Mark. I'm from Newcastle and I am a Muslim. And if you're wondering how the hell's that going on, he's got his tattoos and whatnot, I'm a revert. So I became Muslim 2 years ago. Simply for the fact I believe in God and I believe in the oneness of God. And I don't believe anything else is worthy of worship except God. No man, no being, and La ilaha illallah. There is no God but God. And for those that don't know, Allah just means God in Arabic. And you know, there's a very famous person, and he's a prophet in Islam, messenger of God. Most people know him as Jesus. We believe him as a messenger of God. And he called out to Ilah because he spoke Aramaic, and if you translated God into Aramaic, it would be Ilah, or Syriac would be Allah. And Muslims just believe in God, and we submit our will to God. That is what Islam means, submission to God. And a Muslim, the definition of a Muslim is someone who submits their will to God. So yeah, you can be English and a Muslim. You can be of any nationality, any creed, any race. And I invite you all to learn more. What was your view on Muslims before you started looking into Islam? To be honest, my views were very bad. And I grew up in a time around 2001 when we had all these attacks happening, then the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. And everything I learned about Islam was from the news and Western propaganda demonizing Islam. So my views were very, very bad. I grew up in an area that wasn't very diverse. I never had any conversations with Muslims. So everything I learned was what the West had pushed. Unfortunately, when I grew up, I was 25, started traveling the world. I ended up in Egypt for 8 months. And the hospitality there was just unbelievable. All the lads that I worked with when I was scuba diving there were just amazing. I went to Thailand after that for a few years, and I experienced being around Muslims there as well. Just so you guys know, there is over 8 million Muslims in Thailand. Yeah, my views over the years completely changed. I ended up in Tenerife for a bit, spent time with Muslims then. And then when COVID happened, I was managing a nightclub in Spain. Learned a lot more about Islam for myself over the years. And then when I came back to the UK, I ended up at a warehouse, managing at a logistics warehouse. And in that warehouse, there were so many Muslims working there. Now I was raised as a Christian, and I had doubts about Christianity all my life. And when I was around 26, I started telling people I believe in God, but I don't believe man is God. And when I was in the warehouse, I would have conversations with people about religion and God, and they said we've got very similar views. And after learning more and more about Islam, I realized I did. There is one God. And once I became Muslim, I got myself a Quran. I read it all the time now. I advise people to go and read the Quran, because a lot of the stuff you've been taught is a lie. And it takes nothing to read a book. And there's so much hate in this world for Islam, and a lot of it is because people are uneducated and don't know their facts. And they take their information from places like X, where there's a lot of racism and Islamophobia today. So I advise anyone to go and read the Quran and start there, and you will realize a lot of the stuff you've learned over the years is wrong. I'm Muslim, and I say that very proudly. And I would say that to anyone that I came into contact with, any man, I will say I'm a Muslim proudly. And I am a man that once upon a time hated Muslims. I hated the idea of Islam because I knew very little about it. All I knew of Islam was what I learned from the news and what was pushed by the governments of this world, the West. I grew up in a time when there were terrorist attacks by extremists who acted in the name of Islam. And I believed all the rhetoric that was pushed from the West. that Muslims were to be feared and Islam was to be feared. Fortunately, I had a chance to start traveling over 10 years ago. I traveled for 8 years. And in that time, I met many, many Muslims. And Muslims, as I know now, are the kindest, most sincere, hospitable people that you will come into contact with. And as someone who before had very negative views on Muslims and Islam, they still showed me a warm embrace, because that is what Islam teaches you. I implore any one of you who comes onto my videos and comments negative things about my character without knowing who I am or what I stand for, to please just think for a second and try to learn for yourself. Open the Quran and read it for yourself. Do not go on to X, do not go on to TikTok and join in with these discussions when you know very little. I used to do the same as you, and I would see little snippets of things from Hadith, and I would think, oh, that sounds awful. However, if you go into the Bible and the Torah, which is the Old Testament, and you take little snippets, you can make that religion seem very, very despicable. Don't take things out of context. This world needs dialogue. We are not your enemy. I am a British man, I am an Englishman, and I am a proud Geordie. I come from a military family. My dad retired a captain in the British Army. First he was in the Paras, and then he was in the PT school. He had many tours in many different places. As did my grandfather, who also retired a captain. He was in the Royal Engineers. Now, my upbringing was very pro-Britain and the British Empire, because that was what I was taught. However, my mind has took me to places to learn more about the British Empire. And I see the bad things that we've done in the British Empire. Now, I do not hate being British, but there are some despicable things that our country has done, and some people do not want to accept that. And we need to accept the things that we've done. Now, as a Muslim, you have every right to defend your land. I have family in this country. I have my father, my mother, my grandfather, my brothers, their kids. If somebody came to this land and wanted to oppress this land, as a Muslim, I have every right to defend it. It doesn't matter who it is from, because you are meant to fight against oppression in Islam. So if I was from a different country, I would also have that very same right to fight oppression. And people always say, oh, the religion of peace. Islam is the religion of justice. And I stand firm on justice. And I stand here today as an Englishman, as a proud Muslim. And I am a better Englishman because of Islam. I implore every single one of you, start learning for yourselves and start going out and having conversations with Muslims, because they will happily have a conversation with you to explain things that you have doubts about. If you ever want to have a conversation with me, I will buy you a cup of tea and you can ask me anything you like. I hope you all have a great day. The weather here in England is lovely, and what a great place this could be if we all just put our differences aside. Take care.